Please don't be an update for Battlegrounds. BG
Zero
sucks.
update when?
Cyrodiil will
For the
always be
Emperor.
the king of
Cyrodiil.
PvP.
Cyrodiil.
Why do developers
Cyrodiil.
not listen
Why
to the
don't
player
you
base
reward
and keep giving
Cyrodiil?
us more
Cyrodiil.
PvP updates?
Can we have
Cyrodiil.
one cool, sexy Altmer guy and companions?
The Bethesda Twitch channel hosted an ESO livestream that gave us all a sneak peek of the new content and features that be dropping in Q4, the year's final update. If you missed the stream or were looking for a refresher, then you came to the right place. In the first part of this video, I'll go ahead and summarize all the important points from that stream that you're definitely going to want to hear about. Then we'll wrap things up with some of my thoughts as well as some community impressions. Alright, there's lots to talk about, so let's get right into the recap. Gina Bruno, the newly appointed Senior Creator Engagement Manager, kicked the stream off with Miss Ninetails, a member of the ESO stream team who specializes in creating content for new and returning players. We were given a brief rundown of what was going to be discussed on stream, as well as some key dates for the next update and the in-game and IRL events that be taking place throughout the rest of the year. ESO's lead combat and PvP designer, Brian Wheeler, graced us with his presence to talk to us about the long-awaited PvP update that the devs have spent the past 2 years working on. This base game update introduces two-sided Battlegrounds, as well as a ton of new BG features and changes. Wheeler mentioned that the devs have collected a lot of feedback over the years from players who want a more competitive PvP experience, as well as players who have been asking for a more casual PvP experience, and these Battlegrounds changes aim to appease both parties. The usual three-sided 4v4v4 mode that we've come to know is going to be temporarily retired. In its place, we'll have 4v4 and 8v8 matches that will take place in 7 entirely new custom-built maps. The two Battlegrounds teams will now be Pit Demons and Fire Drakes. Pour one out for the Stormlords. With this new two-sided format, the Battlegrounds experience will receive a much-needed breath of fresh air. This becomes immediately apparent when Wheeler goes into the process of designing Battlegrounds maps. With 3 teams on the battlefield, the devs were restricted to creating these kind of hexagon-shaped maps. But with 2 teams, the devs have some more freedom to build a little more asymmetrically and flex their creativity. For example, in the very first map that was shown on stream, Port du Fort, the developers were able to mimic the tight corners and cramped alleyways of the Imperial City to bring that kind of vibe that previously only existed in open-world PvP into Battlegrounds. Another new addition to the Battlegrounds experience is the introduction of power-ups, or reintroduction, rather, a feature that may be familiar to those who have braved the Maelstrom, Vateshran, and Black Rose prison arenas. This was before my time, but apparently Battlegrounds used to have power-ups in them, specifically a damage power-up that did exactly what it sounds like. Only the devs found that it was a little too overpowered, especially in that 3-sided environment. The power-ups that were shown on stream included one that gave your character a pretty impressive speed boost, and another one that would grant your character something like 500 ultimate when activated. Wheeler stated that the devs intended to create a much more relaxed environment in the 8v8 BG mode. This makes sense on principle alone, as players don't have to immediately be thrown into combat. They can kind of hang back behind their team if they're not quite ready to be charging the front lines. Likewise, player deaths aren't as detrimental to the entire team since the team sizes are larger. With this guiding principle in mind, the devs made it so that 4 of the new maps are specific to the 8v8 mode, and that those 4 maps are the only ones that have power-ups in them. Thus, power-ups will not be present in the competitive 4v4 BG modes. The 8v8 maps are generally larger, more open, and more likely to have structures like alleyways that you can duck in and out of, while the 4v4 maps will be more concentrated to reinforce their more competitive vibe. When the devs were playtesting these new BG modes, they realized that a lot of the rules that worked just fine in the 3-sided modes were not super ideal in the new 2-sided mode, so a couple of changes have been made in that regard. For example, in a match of Chaos Ball without a third team, the playtest matches mostly resulted in a lot of heavily lopsided outcomes where one team would get 500 points and the other 0 by the end of the match. So in a lot of the 2-sided Battlegrounds, there are going to be 3 Chaos Balls. The healers in the chat hearing this right now. To really bring out the chaos in the word chaos ball, the devs even made it so that when you pick up this hot potato, some things can change. For example, you may be turned into a massive werewolf behemoth and have your hotbar changed to be full of werewolf-specific abilities. Another chaos ball can turn you into a vampire lord with a hotbar full of vampiric abilities that are heavily inspired by the skills in the vampire skill line. If you've been queuing into Battlegrounds for a minute, then you've probably ran into your fair share of spawn camping Andes that just AFK in the spawn or deliberately camp the spawn, only occasionally lobbing attacks below if an enemy gets close, or worse yet, those fuckers that spend the entire match mauling and pissing and shitting in the group chat instead of actually PvPing. Well, it's gonna suck to be those guys because there's a new feature that will be added that will automatically kick you out of the spawn and into the action zone after 2 minutes of being in the spawn. Some Battlegrounds will now also have rounds and lives in them. Players will have a limited amount of lives per round. Once they're used up, they'll have to sit out for the rest of the round. They won't be able to fight anymore. In the example that Wheeler showed us in this overgrown map, he stated that players would have 5 lives per round. There'd be 3 rounds in a game, and the team that gets the best of 3 wins. Each round is currently set at being 5 minutes long, but all of these kinds of variables are subject to change. Though we won't be able to fight anymore if we use up all of our lives in a round, we will have the option of spectating players, which is pretty sweet. Now imagine if they added a play of the game cinematic. Capture the Relic is a game mode that currently exists in 3-sided Battlegrounds, but it'll be removed altogether from 4v4 BGs because it just wasn't working out in those kinds of PvP scenarios and in those smaller 4v4 maps. Good. I, for one, hate that game mode. Capture the Relic. All my homies hate Capture the Relic. Miss Ninetails asked about PvP rewards, so Wheeler took a brief moment from his Battlegrounds showcase to chat with us about those. The rewards for the worthy sets that were going to drop in Update 43 are going to be in Update 44. Along with 3 new sets that can only be earned from Battlegrounds, 4 new outfit styles and a new adornment will also be able to be obtained as rewards from BGs, albeit at a slower rate in the 8v8 mode and a faster rate in the competitive 4v4 mode. The leaderboards have also been adjusted so that there will only be one leaderboard called Competitive. The only way to receive rewards associated with leaderboard scores is from queuing into the competitive 4v4 games. Modes like Domination and Crazy King will still exist, although you may notice some slight changes. An example was shown on screen, as this map had only one static flag as opposed to a couple, and it just so happened to be positioned on a narrow bridge above slaughterfish-infested waters. New knockback meta incoming. To create a more intense competitive vibe, smaller, more concentrated maps were made for those 4v4 matches. Additionally, environmental hazards will appear on these maps, such as pretty deadly plants. In this map here, 2 domination points are located right on the very edge of the map, making it a perilous feat to capture and hold down these flags. I'm telling you guys, knockback builds, they're gonna become meta. I'm joking, I don't know what the f I'm talking about. It's worth noting that there are no lives on this specific map. In fact, the devs are able to pretty easily turn on or off lives and rounds for specific maps, allowing them to be pretty flexible with their game modes. Wheeler then touched on the notion of MMR, or matchmaking rating. This is essentially a means to determine the skill level of a player, and it's a tool that can, in theory, help put players of similar skill in the same Battlegrounds matches. Keeping with the casual nature that the devs hope to promote in the 8v8 mode, those 8v8 matches will not take MMO into account. The devs are also looking at having MMR degrade more aggressively if you go inactive for a period of time, say 7 days. A monthly MMR reset will also occur, giving everyone a better chance to do a leaderboard push. Moreover, we're now going to be able to see our MMR. That's pretty exciting. Gina chimed in to mention that those with an active ESO Plus subscription would also receive 10% more AP and Telvar from PvP sources going forward. Wheeler wrapped up his segment by reinforcing this notion that the 8v8 Battlegrounds mode will be a perfect means for players who are less experienced with PvP to give it a shot, and that the devs are also willing to change some of the parameters of the competitive PvP modes in the future to make them more challenging and exciting for us veteran PvPers. One of ESO's system designers, Carrie Day, joined the stream to chat with us about some other neat features that we can expect in this next update. The first feature being the brand new scribing grimoire from the support skill line called Banner Bearer. This new toggled skill does not cost anything to be cast. Rather, you reduce your own health, stam, and mag recovery to provide an aura bonus to allies within 8 meters. This skill will have to be on both bars if you wish to keep it toggled on through a bar swap. Allies standing in this aura will be able to benefit from a variety of buffs, such as an increase to recovery or fire damage, among other things. What that bonus will be is up to you to decide when you scribe the skill. There are 8 focus scripts that can be used on this grimoire, and each one has a different visual to help allies identify what the aura will grant them. Additional support for 14 different focus scripts will also be added. Some examples include the Grimoire Vault having access to bleed damage, Smash having access to poison damage, and Elemental Explosion having access to physical damage. 4 new skill styles will be added to the game. Do recall that skill styles are earnable collectibles that change the appearance of your skills. Undo and Accelerate will both have new purple variants, while the puncture and foreshock skills have undergone some pretty elaborate makeovers. Take a look at what I'm talking about here. This foreshock skill style called Wild Burn doesn't just transform the skill to have visuals that are a nice shade of teal, but it also consists of a bunch of leaves that burst out of your staff. The puncture skill is not a flashy skill in the least bit, but the molten skill style variant called Lava Burst makes it look like a sweet Dragonite ability. We've got some item sourcing and currency improvements to look forward to in Update 44. Imperial City Vault keys will be converted into a new currency, which will save us all some much-needed inventory space and simplify the process of accessing these vaults. The previous system felt unnecessarily convoluted, so this is definitely a welcome change. Imperial City item sourcing has also been improved by replacing those old treasure chests that reside in the vaults with new vendors. Each new vault vendor will have around 8 new item sets available for purchase, either with Telvar or these new key fragments. Every Imperial City item set is now curated, making it much easier to obtain the gear that you need by purchasing gear coffers in IC. As a reminder, curated gear means that gear that you have not yet collected is more likely to drop for you. If you've already collected a helmet of the powerful axe, then another helmet of the powerful axe will not drop from a powerful axe coffer until you've obtained the entire set. That's great that gear will be more accessible to gamers, but can we please get an F in the chat for all the prices of these items for the traders in the audience? Reston Pepperoni Powerful Assault Ice Staff prices. The Telvar Jewelry Merchant will now be a Telvar Rotating Merchant, similar to how the Infinite Archive has a rotating merchant. It'll carry mythic antiquity leads, skill styles and skill style fragments, treasure map containers, scripts for scribing, and gold PvP jewelry. The drop rates of the Heartwood, decorative wax, and mundane rune housing materials are also going to be increased next patch so that they're easier to obtain. Great news for housing enjoyers. Not so great news for traders. Man, we can't catch a break, huh? Definitely be sure to sell off your excess housing mats now before their prices plummet some more once their supply increases. Next up, we got a preview of 2 new houses that will be dropping next patch. The first home is a mine located in Blackreach, fully equipped with an elevator, minecarts, and a custom forage. It also has a beautiful pool at the bottom of the cave. The second home, named the Grand Gallery of Tamriel, is an Imperial-themed home that overlooks Cyrodiil and the Rift. This home was intended to serve as a museum of sorts for players to display their impressive collections of collectibles, such as antiquities, trial rewards, Tales of Tribute rewards, zone completion rewards, and more. Also, during this segment of the stream, Carrie was using special internal commands to fly all over the house to efficiently show it off to the viewers. And it reminded me of this video I watched about Guild Wars 2 and how in their new Homestead expansion they're able to transform into a little bee and zip around their homes. As you'd imagine, this would be such a handy tool for building and decorating since you wouldn't have to create scaffolding or anything like that. Slides the devs a $50 bill. Hey, can you guys put a feature like this in the game? That would be very based. Some updates were made to the tutorial and main quest. The first chapter of ESO's main questline will be reinstated as the game's primary tutorial, meaning that the Gates of Adamant tutorial quest will be retired. The OG tutorial quest was also tweaked quite a bit, such that it has better weapon drops and a more gradual introduction to game mechanics, among other things. Height dynamic range will also be available for PC next patch. Lastly, 2 new companions have been added to the game. Companions are unlockable followers that join you on your adventures, fighting along your side and commenting on your choices from time to time. The companions also have a combat suite that's similar to the existing class suites. Companions also provide the player with non-combat perks. For example, Sharp as Knight's non-combat perk, Sharp's Patience, makes fish bite at a faster rate and increases the chances of receiving trophy fish, making him a perfect companion for all of the aspiring master anglers. The 2 new companions that are debuting in the next update are Tanloran and Xerath Var. Tanloran is a Dragonite and Soul Magic hybrid character. Their companion perk will provide the player with an increased chance to force pick a lock, a reduced chance to lose a lock pick if you fail when attempting to pick a lock, and an increased duration in the amount of time you have to pick a lock. Xerath Var is a Necromancer companion, so now each of the current classes in this game are represented through companions. Xerath has a Spirit Cat that helps guide him throughout his journey, and that Spirit Cat will help you too through Xerath's handy and adorable companion perk, one that essentially works like the Keen Eye perk in the Antiquities line. This perk will highlight the location of heavy sacks throughout the world. Look at those cute little paw prints, that's so precious. Gina briefly showcased the new Fallen Leaves of West Weald in-game event that will be taking place from September 26th to October 8th. In this event, players will be able to complete special quests throughout the West Weald that can be obtained from an event NPC or the Lucent Citadel weekly trial quest to receive event coffers filled with rewards and event tickets. We'll be able to get the new Tree Sap Legion style pages through this event. The Fallen Leaves of West Weald event is one of those grand community events where the community works together to complete a boatload of those event quests to unlock some event-exclusive rewards for the entire player base. The first reward that can be unlocked is that little blob of goo non-combat pet that you see on the left there. The second unlockable reward is a luminescent Varla stone memento, as seen in the middle of this image. And the third unlockable reward is, whatever the heck that is. Man, what the heck? The ESO lore master actually mentioned that this is the Brekka, and it's one of his favorite things that he has put into Tamriel. I like the lore master a lot. I think he's really chill. So it makes me feel kind of bad to say that this thing just looks really uncanny to me. I think it's the legs. Scratch that, actually. I think it's the toes. Damn, I got distracted there. The third reward tier will also reward players with the Tree Sap Legion arms pack, as well as a whole bunch of coffers filled with event-themed goodies. To wrap up the stream, Miss Ninetales read off a list of some other neat events that we can expect in just the coming months, and Gina informed us of some in-person events that'll be taking place soon. Wait, that was a lie. The stream actually wrapped up with a neat little preview of the Elder Scrolls Castles, a new mobile game. I'm not going to go over the trailer since I'm talking about the Elder Scrolls Online here, but I will say that the game looked pretty cute and I'll definitely be playing it. Holy, that was a long one, man. You know what, I had quite a bit written down here in regards to my thoughts about the new PvP stuff, but the stream recap segment of this video ended up being pretty lengthy because there were so many juicy things to talk about, so I think I'll save the majority of my PvP related thoughts for another video. This kind of works out actually, since I plan to check out the new Battlegrounds modes on the PTS anyways, so I'll probably be able to form even better opinions about this new stuff after I get to actually experience it for myself. All in all though, as an enjoyer of all things PvP related, especially small-scale PvP like Battlegrounds, I am really excited for this next update. A lot of the stuff that was shown on stream looked really promising. I especially love that this more casual mode has the potential to draw more people into PvP by providing an opportunity for a more gradual learning curve. PvP is f***ing awesome whenever it's popping off and full of players, so if this casual 8v8 mode can bring more peeps into the PvP side of things, I view that as a dub. There's one thing that I did want to share that is not PvP related before I turn it over to you guys. It didn't really sit well with me that the new companions would be available for purchase from the Crown store or free for players with an active ESO Plus subscription. I suppose it's not entirely out of left field to expect to have to pay to get companions, seeing as the existing companions can only be obtained by purchasing chapters, but it does feel a little odd that we paid the usual chapter price for Gold Road this year, didn't get any companions in that chapter, and then have to pay extra for them now. It's kind of giving EA in the sense that Sims 4 players have had to pay a little extra for things that should have already been in an expansion pack in the past. Know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this specific situation doesn't bother me all that much since I do have an ESO Plus subscription already and I'm not really into using companions anyways unless I'm choosing to play ESO in a really unhinged way. But I know that this must be a pain point for players who are hoping for new companions in the Gold Road chapter and don't have a Plus subscription. I wouldn't want to see more instances of this either, where things that are normally a part of a chapter have to be purchased as additional content sometime later. I'm hoping this is a one-time thing because I can't say I'm a fan of that. Though I have to be fair here and present the flip side of this argument, which is that at least people who are interested in just the companions and don't give a damn about the chapter will only have to pay up a little bit instead of buying an entire chapter just to access the one thing that they really wanted. But enough about me, let's talk about you. Aside from all the usual fucking fix Cyrodiil, bitch goofiness that I saw, I got the impression that this update stream was fairly well received by players. Here's how you guys felt about the upcoming changes. Now mind you, this survey is only half serious of course, but it was still interesting to look at. I did see that there were some mixed thoughts about the new tutorial changes. On one hand, people were stoked about this change as it makes a bit more sense narratively and is less confusing for newer players, but on the other hand, players were sad to have to say adios to the Adamantine Tower. A lot of the people in my community anyways were pretty stoked to see that BGs were getting some love, although I did still run into a comment or two from people who were really not a fan of the Battlegrounds changes. While I enjoy some forms of PvP more than others, sure, I still love every form of PvP in this game. I definitely don't dislike any form anyway. So I have a hard time understanding where this animosity for BGs comes from, especially when it's coming from other PvPers, and why it's such a terrible thing that BGs are getting some love. I really appreciated that this gamer took the time to explain where they were coming from, but to me, it still seems like it's just boiling down to a matter of personal preference, and folks being upset that their preferred mode of PvP has not received any attention in a hot minute. In all fairness, we don't get PvP content for very often at all, so I can empathize with being desperate for some new, fresh PvP updates. It's just too bad that this can manifest into the hate and hysteria that was on full display in the Twitch chat. I'd love to see Cyrodiil and IC receive some more love too, so here's to hoping we won't have to wait another 5 years for another major PvP update, eh? Folks in the replies of that YouTube poll and on my Twitter timeline have really been digging the new companions, though I can't believe the devs passed up on the opportunity to make an NBNB companion. SMH might shake my head. Anytime ESO drops an update preview stream, there are always going to be motherfuckers complaining. But I have to say, it really felt like there wasn't that much complaining this time around. Even as I combed through the Twitch chat here for the intro bit of this video, I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of people vibing with the new features. Finally, some good fucking food. PvPers that vibe with Battlegrounds are eating good, Imperial City enjoyers are eating good, housing mains, people that like to play with companions, event goers, we're all eating good next patch. You really love to see it. Let's conclude on that positive note. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd like to give a special thanks to my YouTube members for their additional support, and I'll see ya in the next video. Cheers.